It's time for the Volquest Mailbag Podcast, answering your questions from the General's quarters every week, right here on Volquest.
Good Thursday, everyone. Welcome to the Volquest.com Mailbag Podcast, presented by our good friends at Smoky Mountain Organics, East Tennessee's most trusted health and wellness store, focusing on natural products, organic remedies to a variety of ailments. 4 locations to serve you. Knoxville at 8018 Kingston Pike, just across from Trader Joe's, and of course the 3 in Sevier County. That's Smoky Mountain Organics. You can check them out online at SmokyMountainOrganics.com. With Rob Lewis and Austin Price and Brent Hubbs, glad to have you along with us on the mailbag edition of the podcast, and we'll jump right into the questions. Good bit of recruiting as it is that time of year to discuss in this edition of the mailbag. So we'll start out of the gate with, where is Tennessee at with Lucas Simmons and C.J. Allen, AP?
Lucas Simmons, Tennessee's right there in it. Oklahoma's there. Lucas is a guy that, is big on relationships, big on Florida State because of relationships. No more, nothing more, nothing less. I mean, they were the first school to offer him. He's been there more times than anybody else. Oklahoma's also a school there, but he likes Tennessee a lot. So the visit here really wowed him when he came up here for the first time. And so I know he's excited to get back to campus. So they're right there in it.
C.J. Allen?
Much the same. I think kind of Tennessee's the quiet leader there for C.J. Allen. Going to take a visit in June, and I think come to a decision sometime in the next 2 months.
All right. You think anybody's coming off the board before Memorial Day?
No.
I don't see anything either.
Brandon Strozier would be the only one, but I think he's going to Clemson as of, what was this, the 11th?
Yeah, as of the 11th. Anyone Tennessee's trending with right now, not necessarily leading, that Tennessee wasn't a factor with a few weeks ago? Any new names popping up is what he's asking.
Well, I mean, I think Tennessee's more of a factor now with Cam Fleming, corner, C.J. Fleming's cousin from Virginia. And that's because Tennessee started to push there more. But, no new names.
And then a football question here. After spring practice, do you guys feel better or worse about the O-line, D-line? Rob, I'll start with you. You feel better or worse about the line of scrimmage?
I just don't think we know yet. The offensive line, to me, is not you may disagree, Hubbard. Offensive line to me is not as big of a concern, just because, you lost Cade, who obviously, I think was probably, we all agree, is probably your best player. But you still have a lot of guys who have played. You may not have any all SEC, all conference type guys, but you've got a lot of guys who have played there. Defensive line, Omari Thomas, is that your most experienced guy?
Probably.
I know he started some games, but Omari's still not played a lot of football. And I'm talking about, I'm not counting Tyler or Byron Young on the edges. I'm just talking about, hand in the ground, big uglies. You got DeJoun Terry, who's played some. You got Amari, who's played some. To me, that's a much bigger question mark to me. I don't know about you guys.
Well, I think, Austin, that, the interesting thing on the defensive line in the defensive interior is you're almost replacing a couple of guys when you factor in how many snaps Matthew Butler played.
Oh, yeah.
Because, it's just, that's an odd deal to play that
50
many
plus
snaps in a game. You're not going to see that out of most defensive linemen. So you're almost replacing 2 guys when you talk about replacing Matthew
That's a
Butler.
great point.
Yeah, even a guy like Caleb Tremblay gave you a solid amount of snaps. But I think Tennessee's going to be okay on the D-line. I just think that they have to, Rodney's got to continue to push some young guys. I know Rodney thinks highly of Bryson Eason. Now, Bryson to this point has not done anything, but I know Rodney has high hopes for that kid. Feels like he can be a really solid defensive lineman. I think what you're going to see is they dropped the weight on Elijah Simmons, and I don't think he was any more explosive than he was when he was the bigger kind of girth type player. I think they're going to put the weight back on him. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think when they dropped it in the spring, he wasn't different, is what I'm trying to say, compared to what he was at a bigger weight. So I think it may just behoove him to be bigger.
We'll see. Obviously, he would be a huge X factor if you could get something out of him and something out of Bryson East, and that changes it a lot. And you don't know about those young guys. That's asking a lot of those 2 newcomers, and Jordan Phillips and Tyree West. But there's certainly talent there and potential there. And we know Rodney's found a way to kind of work young guys or first year players in slowly. And that, I'll be honest with you, I've got more confidence. I'm okay with the D line, even though I think they have more personnel questions because of the Rodney Garner factor. You don't do it 30 plus years in this league. He has not had first round, NFL draft picks, in the 3 deep every year he's been in this league, and he's found ways to be successful. So that gives you some confidence there. On the O line, I think it's interesting. Starting to see a little more buzz about Darnell Wright out there. Now I'm not jumping on no wagon that he's some first round draft pick or anything, but there's a little bit of buzz about some guys on this offensive line. To me, Austin's about finding one position. Can they find the other tackle? Otherwise, I think they're solid if they stay healthy.
Yeah, I do think they're very solid, especially in the interior, just because they have depth there, guys that have played. But can they find someone who can adequately play? What is going to be left tackle with Darnell moving to right? This fall, and is that J.J. Crawford? Is it Gerald Mincey? If you ask me who's going to start the opener, I would lean J.J. Crawford. As we sit here in the middle of May.
Sam Smith, 2233. Where's Tennessee at with Shadavian Bradley? And who would you compare Julian Phillips to? Obviously, the basketball player. Let's start with Phillips, Rob. What do you? Who would you kind of put him in?
I saw something. The kid's a really good player. He's a 5-star prospect. But I saw something on the board the other day, and I don't know who started it. I wouldn't want to embarrass him, but comparing him to Jabari Smith, everybody needs to slow down. Julian Phillips is not Jabari Smith. They're not even close. He's 6'8". He has a nice jump shot. He can put it on the floor and get to the rim. I don't know. I hate comparing kids to kids when they're 18 years old. He's
Scottie Pippen.
AP, you're the best. You're the best. He's 6'8". He has a nice 3-point stroke. He can put it on the floor and
deadlift shrimp
and get to the rim. But he was 180 pounds, so he can get knocked off his spots. He needs
cross
to get a lot
between
stronger.
Drazen Petrovic and Hakeem Olajuwon.
It feels like
Grant Hill, AP. Grant Hill.
Hey,
it feels like that one. Obviously he's going to announce later today, but nobody seems to know anything. But Auburn's went from the Auburn people thinking they're not getting him, and Tennessee's the leader, to Auburn thinking that they're now leading. And obviously his people, Phillips's camp, has not said anything to anybody, from a media standpoint publicly. So I don't know what's going to happen there. We've all said that one's full of twists and turns.
Well,
Would not shock me at all if it's Auburn.
No, and Hubbard, I said I was in Indianapolis getting ready to watch Tennessee play Michigan when he decommitted, and the easiest thing for that kid to do would have been to commit to Tennessee. 8 weeks ago. He had been to Tennessee. Him and his family have a great relationship with Justin Gainey, and it just seemed like he has kept looking for something else. And again, I'm not saying Tennessee's out, but he's been shopping, is what it feels like to me.
Yeah,
we'll find out later today.
Yep, certainly. All right, Bradley, what do you think Tennessee is with Shadavian Bradley, AP?
Still in a really good spot there. He's coming in Memorial Day weekend, and that's one that Mike Eckler has continued to work really hard. Tennessee's defensive staff has continued to work really hard, and still have the commits. Whether it be Nico or Jack Luttrell or even a guy like Nathan Spillman, who have all worked on Shadavian Bradley, and Shadavian, again, will be here in a couple of weeks, and that's a real big weekend to me for Tennessee to kind of firmly cement yourself there.
AP, are those all unofficial visits that weekend, or are any of those kids coming in officially?
Well, Bryson Sanders will be here officially, and I think there's a chance there's another official.
New member with a screen name Garantano Survivor has the following question. Where's Tennessee at with Francis Mauiga? Excuse me.
That's what I'll go with.
Vic Burley, Tony Mitchell. And also any update on the wide receiver transfer from Hutchinson?
All good questions. Francis, Tennessee has started a trend there, coming in for the Memorial Day weekend, I believe. And, that one doesn't seem like it's close to ending. He's going to take a bunch more visits in June. And then I think start working towards some type of decision, probably July or August. Again, I mean, it's recruiting subject to change any time, but at the same time, I think that's kind of the plan as of right now. Vic Burley coming in Memorial Day weekend. It's a big visit for Tennessee. Georgia started to sniff around there a little bit more. And then obviously Clemson's right there in it. So, that'd be kind of the top three in my mind. Who is the
Tony Mitchell?
Tony Mitchell. He's got to come in, and I've got to see that to believe it. And then as far as Malik Benson, I think Tennessee's in that one. I do not think they're the leader.
Okay, and that's the wide receiver transfer from Hutchinson. Benson. All recruiting, any 24s that can make it into the Memorial Day Junior Day? That list
That's
will grow.
That's an invite. I mean, like that Memorial Day thing is invite only. Like you're talking 30 to 40 kids max. Like this isn't some regular junior day. They don't want slappies there. They want the best of the best. Like, and that's just how, Tennessee's looking at it, is like it's a premier event, not just any Tom, Dick, or Harry that rolls in.
And the priority there is 23 kids, more than 24 kids.
100%. Now, I'm not saying there's not going to be a
couple here or there.
Underclassmen are there, but like it's going to be scarce if there are.
All right. I know it's early, but any updates on 24 hoops targets, Rob Lewis?
The Cam Scott kid from South Carolina. It's one to keep in mind. You get I'm going to completely botch his name, but the big kid at Hamilton Heights is a big target. I mean, golly. Somty. I'm gonna go with Somty. I want to say Somty Cyril, and again, I may have just completely botched it. But the big kid at Hamilton Heights was here for a couple of unofficial visits this spring or this past season, and he is a priority target, big time player. He's depending on what ranking you look at, top 20, top 25 type guy. That's technically in state. He's not. He's an international prospect that has been here for a couple of years, but that's the guy that I would put at the top of the board for sure.
You feel like Scott's becoming a bigger priority? You think he's
he is, but that's one that's we've seen Tennessee offer a couple of kids over the Carolinas. I think that's kind of Justin Gainey's area. And they're swinging for the fences. I mean, they offered Gigi Jackson in this 23 class, who maybe the number one prospect in that 23 class. He ended up picking North Carolina. I think Justin has a lot of ties over there, and there's a lot of high school coaches. There's a lot of travel coaches. Tennessee's been able to get in the door, but can they close with some of those kids in ACC country? It's tough.
Megavol 98 wants to know, where does Tennessee set with Zach Myers, Hunter Osborne, Cameron Selden, and Jordan Matthews?
Myers in it, but he feels like he's down the board for me. I'm not saying he is. I'm saying just how it kind of comes across when I'm looking at everything. Osborne, Tennessee would love to be there. I again in it, but not at the top. Who we go with? Cam Selden.
I talked
coming back in June, and that's one that I think that Tennessee would love to try to close out in the month of June and have some type of decision early July. What was the last one, Hubbard?
Jordan Matthews. I talked with him.
Rob talked to Jordan Matthews.
Yeah, I talked with him last week, and I mean, I just flat out asked the kid. I was like, "You're from Baton Rouge. I mean, are you not just staying home?" And which I think is a question everybody wants to know. And he was like, "No, man, I don't want to get fenced in. I want to see what's out there." At the end of the day, I'll pull a Hubbard. I'll have to see it to believe it. But I mean, he's really interested in Tennessee. He's very aware of Alontae Taylor and Theo Jackson. Going to the draft where they went after their careers. I mean, bottom line, he likes Tennessee. He's taking an official visit in June. But again, he's from Baton Rouge, so we'll see.
Yeah, from Baton Rouge. Always keep that one in the back of your mind on that one. LF Vol wants to know, what is the source of the narrative you guys have shared that wide receiver isn't valued like quarterback, which is obvious, but also offensive tackle and cornerback. In recent years, college football's best have had outrageous talent at wide receiver. Most feel Alabama only lost last year due to injuries to two of their best, and the NFL draft values wide receivers over all others. Well, they don't value them over quarterbacks. And I would say they don't value receivers over guys who can rush the quarterback. That would be my belief when you look at draft analysis and those things. Quarterbacks and guys who can get to the quarterback, to me, feel like they're the best, kind of the highest priorities. Now, in the NFL game, because the way the game has changed, Austin, and you're spreading out, you're throwing as much as you have, the receiver position is of greater value than it's been in previous years, and that's obvious by the numbers.
Well, it is, but it's also a reason why, like, teams just, I mean, like, do you think that Kansas City would have just let Tyreek Hill go if they didn't feel like, hey, we can just go plug in somebody else? You know, I mean, you can go right down. Look at all the wide receivers that got traded this offseason. Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams. There's one more. You know, I mean, like, NFL teams aren't letting these guys go. Yeah. I mean, but NFL teams aren't letting these guys go if they don't feel like, hey, we can just plug player X right back in there. You know, I mean, Antonio Brown left the Steelers, you know, and he had a few moments here and there, but for the most part, like, you know, wide receivers can be divas, they can be headaches, you know, and so, yeah, I mean, like, when you're looking at this, you look at it sure like kind of an NFL thing when you're talking about, because he's talking about NIL, you know, but it's also at the same time, you're also looking at this from a marketing standpoint, because at the end of the day, all these NIL deals are marketing deals. This isn't, you know, I mean, you know, in theory anyway. So, like, what's more marketable? I mean, I would tell you the wide receiver probably is more marketable than offensive tackle, because I think that, you know, most businesses are going to want the guy that catches the touchdown, not the guy that blocks for them. But from an NFL standpoint, I would tell you that it's probably the other way around. But I know there's a lot of schools that are trying to use the NFL model, though, you know, when it comes to, like, you know, the current players on their team.
Well, AP does
that also. You can't pay every kid, like, again, like everybody on Volquest. I'm going to get on my high horse. Everyone on Volquest thinks there's like this, you know, it's Scrooge McDuck and we're diving into the pile of gold and you know, just pay them. But, like, it don't work that way. Like, it just does not work that way, Rob. And you know it, and I know it. And you just can't, you know, you can't just say, oh, yeah, okay, you want this? Okay, here, sure. Like, no, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, AP, you made a great point. I mean, you just rattled off a bunch of receivers that got traded. I mean, how many offensive tackles and defensive ends and quarterbacks got traded this offseason? Nothing like that. I mean, some old guys like Matt Ryan, you know, but nobody in the prime of their career like Devontae Adams or, you know, Tyreek Hill that's comparable.
Yeah. Now
there are so many receivers, Hubs, compared to, I mean, finding a tackle that you can count on, finding a pass rusher or a quarterback that you can count on. It's just, I mean, it's just, you know, it's just different.
Yeah, it is. The one thing that's a little bit different that I think colleges have to be a little bit more careful with their model versus the NFL model as well is you're basically getting them for a rookie contract is what it is. I mean, you got a short window with those guys. So it's not like you're drafting or you're going out and getting a tackle to play in year 2 and he's going to play 12 years for you and there's a priority for you. You know, all these positions are high turnover positions, including the receiver spot. So I think there's a little bit of difference, but I do think your point is absolutely right, Austin, in that receivers are a little bit like running backs, you know, in that you just go get the next one. Particularly the NFL model, you just go get the next one. And I think the high school, the college guys, depending on your offensive system, just go get somebody that can run. Just go get somebody because it's not the. And we'll see how many newcomers come in and play for Tennessee at the receiver position. But let's look at year 1 in Josh Heupel's system. Basically, everybody's a rookie, right? Everybody's a first-year player. Cedric Tillman takes off, had done nothing. Velus Jones has taken off. So So the idea of the old David Cutcliffe from years past, where you got to learn all three receiver positions, but before you're ready to play, I mean, Robert Meacham didn't play as a freshman because he had the knee injury, but there was a time where it was play the veterans because they knew what to do. Rob, that's just not the case now. I mean, it is a more plug and play if a guy has the athletic ability and
Sure.
especially run.
I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, the transfer rule is I think a big part of it. I mean, some freshman kid that thinks he's better than two or three older guys ahead of him. I mean, that kid's not sticking around anymore. Whereas, Robert Beecham. Golly, Hubbard, I remember the day he got hurt. You remember that?
Yeah, it was a night practice.
Yeah,
right?
on Haslam Field. I mean, I think it might have even been. We were in there, I think, when it happened. When he caught a touchdown pass, I believe, in the end zone. Anyway, those kids aren't sticking around. I mean, they're not waiting it out. I mean, you've got to. That's a big reason, I think, for that these days. I mean, they're not like you. I thought that was a great throwback to learning all three positions under Coach Cutcliffe. I mean, that's not happening anymore.
No, systems are different now as plug and play guys, and you roll from there. And again, if you can affect the quarterback, then that's the priority on defense. I think the second priority on defense is corners. And then offensively, it's quarterback, protecting the quarterback, and then finding some athletes to go around the quarterback. Now, to your point, Austin, from an NIL standpoint, you're exactly right. Darnell Wright's not going to be as marketable as Cedric Tillman because Cedric Tillman is running in the end zone, spiking the football, and Darnell Wright's the guy there blocking that few people are paying attention to unless he gets a holding call against him or he whiffs because he doesn't make a game-changing play. So from a marketing standpoint, it's different. The problem with NIL a little bit right now is they're trying to figure out and navigate to kids to understanding it's a marketing deal, so the marketing numbers are different versus the NFL contract deal.
But they still want to use the NFL model.
Right. They want to and kids want to use the NFL model, right? I'm a projected whatever round draft pick, pay me $650,000. But you may be a lineman who in the NFL can't get $100,000 worth of marketing stuff.
Well, perfect example. I mean, everybody. I mean, whether it's the collectives, whether it's the agent for the kid, whether it's the kid, whether it's the parents, coaches, whoever, like they all use whatever is most convenient for them. It's kind of like, 24/7. Okay, they have their 24/7 composite, then they have their own rankings. So if they have a kid a 4-star and the composite says he's a 3-star, they're going to use their own rankings when they talk about the kid. Or if they have a kid a 3-star and the composite has a 4-star, they're going to use the composite. So they pick what is the most convenient to have that make the kid look good the best. So same thing here is like whoever you're talking to, whether it's the kid or whoever, they're going to go, oh, we need to go the NFL model here. Oh, we need to do the marketing model here. Oh, it's whatever's most convenient to who you're pitching it to.
Which is why the market's got the model's got to settle. The market's got to settle at some point over the course of time here. Because back to your Scrooge McDuck. By the way, a Ducktales reference is outstanding. It's better than Fozzie
But
Bear.
that's really how they all view it, though. They think, well, we're just diving in, going for a swim.
Fozzie Bear was good, but the Ducktales reference was outstanding.
You got Scrooge McDuck and Detlef Shrimp in the same podcast.
I know. We have to buy you lunch for that one, right? That's good. But the point is, it's not an unlimited supply of money, and that's the reality that everybody has to understand. And look, some collectives will end up having more money than others because fan bases have more money and all of those types of things, and there's going to be more businesses involved and this, that, and the other than there are at other places, but it's not an unlimited budget. It's just
what I think is fascinating. I know I don't know if we talked about it in the podcast. I know we talked about it amongst ourselves. What's it going to look like next year or 2 years from now when some of these, guys
Kids
writing
don't
checks? When some of these guys writing checks are thinking about, man, I can't believe I paid that much. I can't believe I paid that for that. I mean, is it going to?
Well,
and not just in Tennessee. I mean, all over the country.
I think they've always done that to a degree, but it's been 30 grand or 50 grand, that they've donated to get a kid in. Now all
To
of
a
a sudden
slush fund.
now it's all of a sudden a lot more.
Now I'll say this: the counter to that for some people is, well, you hired that guy and you paid him stupid money and you fired him 3 years later, and you're writing $20 million for him to go away. Yet
Yeah.
you continue to make the same mistake. You go hire another one for 3 years and pay him a bunch of money to go away. And you know what I'm saying? How many times have we said during Tennessee's run here, they have to get this one right. They can't afford to be wrong. Wrong. They can't afford to be wrong. And so that's the interesting part of it is, to your point, Rob. Yes, there's going to be more of those because you're dealing with a greater number of people. But there's been plenty of people who should have sat around and said, "Man, we wasted a bunch of money on that coach or that coordinator or whatever, the sport assistant coach, whatever." All right, we're running out of time here. Let's get a couple more quickies in here. Anthron wants to know next high school commitment, offense or defense, AP? Your favorite question, special teams, right?
That's a good question. There's nobody set up, so it'd be a pure guess for me to say I'll go offense.
No stories written.
No stories written. Rob, same weekly question to you about international basketball names.
Man, I got nothing. I've been throwing it out there for 2 months. I don't have a name for you. I will probably have a name for you when the kid shows up on campus as a visitor, and that'll be a name that we've never heard of. It's not going to be some superstar that's choosing between Tennessee and the NBA draft.
When does summer football camp circuit start? That's generally the first week of June. What prospects will benefit from summer camps? I'm not going to run through a list of prospects. What guy do you think, Austin, can really make a name for themselves in summer camp? That's maybe a fringe guy right now, whether it's a Tennessee guy or a guy in state or just some other random name you got on your mind.
Well, I think a guy like Justin Brown could, come up here and, showcase at camp.
Wide receiver from the mid-state.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that.
AP, what's the kid's name from Powell, the defensive end?
Steven Souls.
What's he have to do? Does he have to run?
Well, I think
SEC
he's
prospect?
one that he's one because he's a 24 though. But he's one that could, definitely go boom on the scene with a good camp performance.
And for camp guys, it's much more about the 24s and 25s making a name for themselves. If you're a 23 trying to make a name for yourself in June, it's likely not going to happen.
You probably needed to be hurt last year and not play.
Yeah, maybe COVID, but you've probably got enough tape out there that a lot of people have seen you. What do you think the Tennessee O-line class looks like come signing day as of now?
Oh man, I don't know because I think somebody like Bryson Sanders, who's to me more of a coin flip. If he's in the class, then you've got him, Bustle, and then what they do with Lucas Simmons. Do they land him? Do they land Francis? It could be a pretty good class, honestly. But it just takes the right domino falling, not right domino or two falling.
Are they still in it for? Is it Shamarad?
They are.
Umarov. So they're still in it for him at this point.
I love when you pronounce these names.
I can't get it right.
You gotta do it more like Rob. You're like unsure of yourself. Rob
I know.
Just throws it out
I
there.
don't say it with.
I know I'm saying them wrong.
Look,
but I still them out there.
Here's my problem.
How many syllables?
Hey, I'm still like everybody else listening to this. I'm humming the Ducktales theme in my head right now. Is the problem I've got to finish out this podcast.
Deadlift McDuck.
Let's get out the door on this podcast with the last question. Do you have any concerns about current commits possibly decommitting over under 2.5 commits before the season starts? Take it, Scrooge. Huey, Dewey, Louie.
What if Alabama offered Sylvester Smith or whatever? I don't worry about Nico if that's what somebody's implying. And then over under 2.5 by one in?
Start of the season, September 1. You taking the over there?
I'll go over there, yes.
Take the over. Going to be a busy summertime around the country. Lots of kids are certainly making decisions and will continue to make decisions as the summer. The June is the new December. and that's the way it is. And July is the new December as well. It's all about making summer noise as well. Hey man, there's copyright infringements on that. We're rolling out the door on that deal. That's going to do it for this edition of the Mailbag Podcast, presented by our good friends at Smoky Mountain Organics. He's always entertaining. Austin Price and Rob Lewis. I'm Brent Hubbs. Thanks for joining us. Have a great rest of your Thursday, everybody.
You've been listening to the Volquest Mailbag Podcast every week right here on Volquest.